Now, many of you will know that NEO is currently busy preparing for the official launch of the Firefly sub-brand, which the starting price is just over 140,000 RMB or $20,000. And this official launch that is coming next month, it will give us the price of Firefly with a battery as a service, or with bars, which hopefully it goes below $15,000, which if that is the case, then it's going to be lights out, because it's going to make it to be one of the cheapest EVs that you can buy in China. I mean, boy, I must say this is good news, and so many of the new investors are hoping or patiently waiting for this moment where we see Firefly going to do so well. Now, for NEO, the good thing is that not only are they selling their cars in China, but they are also selling their cars in Europe, right? They are selling their cars in Germany, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Last year they introduced Azerbaijan. They also introduced Middle East. They also introduced Northern of Africa, which is our countries in the Northern of Africa, which is something that is great, something that is massive, and it tells us, or it speaks volumes on where NEO could be. Though, yes, these countries outside of China, they have not been doing that well or generating NEO some good sales. With Firefly, there is a massive hope, a massive potential that could unlock the massive sales outside of China that we've been wanting to see from NEO. Because the reason why NEO is not doing that well in Europe is because these cars are not cheap. I mean, already NEO in China cannot be just afforded by anyone now. You can imagine when you add the shipping cost or the exporting cost plus the tariffs that are there in Europe, it makes NEO's price to be so unaffordable, right? Which is one of the reasons why they have not been that cheap. But the good thing, like I said, there is Firefly coming, there is Envo coming. If you still can't afford an Envo, there will be a Firefly, which is great, which is massive. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this, I'm telling you about this, is that we saw Firefly being tested in the streets of Germany today, which signals that NEO is getting ready to launch this car. NEO is getting ready to make sure that they launch the Firefly sub-brand, not only in China, but also in Europe. NEO's initial plans was to launch this car in Europe, but because of the tariff increase and all that, they said that they were going to do an official launch still in China, because Europe, things are not that well between the trade or the EV trade between Europe and China. Europe increased tariffs, or put into implementation the tariffs which they had proposed last year in Q3, and implemented those tariffs in Q4 around October of last year, which is something that shows us that, of course, indeed, it's not easy to sell NEO cars. It's not easy to sell Chinese cars in Europe, because they are quite expensive. They are quite pricey, especially with the new tariffs. Because what's the use of you going to sell your cars, or what's the use of Chinese companies going to sell their cars in Europe when they know that there are tariffs that they need to put in to a factor which makes their cars to be not afforded anymore. But analysts or big financial analysts say that these tariffs this tariff move by the EU, that the EU Commission is utilizing, it only works in the short term. Long term, tariffs will not work onto Chinese EVs, meaning that Chinese EVs will always find ways, or they will find way to beat the tariff and start selling or producing these cars in Europe, in the US, which is something that is so great. To talk about tariffs, you will know that Canada is one of the countries that imposed 100% tariffs onto Chinese EV, or exported Chinese EV into Canada. And today we saw China also hitting Canada with 100% tariff increase on some of the products which Canada is transporting into China, which speaks volumes, or which talks about the massive trade tensions that we are seeing amongst the countries. So yeah, man, this is great news. This is massive, and it tells us not only where NEO is, but where it could be. Europe, yes, they are not generating, or NEO is not selling that much, but in the near future, things could change around in Europe. In the near future, we could see NEO starting to do very well in Europe, which that will be so great, that will be so exciting to the new investors, because we know that That 30% that Mizuho Securities once came and announced back in 2021, we might actually see it come to pass, because as it stands, the total sales that Europe is generating onto NEO is 2 to 3%, meaning that it's quite insignificant amount of sales that Europe is generating for NEO. And hopefully with NEO and Firefly and Onvo to be launched very soon in Europe, we could see things changing around. We could see, of course, more revenues, more sales being generated by NEO. So tell me what you think about this. Think we need to brace ourselves for what's coming. Blue sky is indeed coming. Those that are persevering will most definitely be rewarded with time. I know share price wise NEO might not be trading well we want it to, but in the long term NEO will win. In the long term NEO will make it through, and those that are persevering throughout the headwinds, the share price will most definitely be rewarded with time. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, be notified, share this video to the new investors, because this is very important. This, knowing that they are already testing again in Germany, Munich, it tells us that it's getting closer for NEO to start with the sales of their models in Germany, which will be so massive. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share. I will see you on the next one, and God bless you all.